Joining me is Allison Liddle. She's a four-time best-selling author. She's an in-demand speaker and trainer. She is a podcast host and founder of Allison Liddle Consulting. Welcome to the show, Allison.
Oh my gosh, I am so grateful that you asked me to be on the show. This is so exciting.
Yes, and you're here today to talk about your successful career, what a career you have, and how do you maintain a healthy lifestyle? Like, how do you do it, Allison?
Right? Well, I don't know how I do it. I guess I didn't always do it. And to be honest with you, for a long time, I gave myself the excuse that I didn't have enough time. And I let my health kind of go on the back burner. And then my mom was diagnosed with breast cancer, which was a big wake up call for me of understanding how important our health is and leading a healthier lifestyle through nutrition choices and through moving my body and through really becoming the best version of me. And so as soon as my mom was diagnosed, I started to go on this health journey. I started to run, I started to get healthier. I started to try to maintain my weight and lose some weight. I tried to think about, what choices I was making for my health, for food, and learning a lot and failing a lot, right? Like to be honest, I think that's the journey that I've gone through. And now I'm at a place where I find exercise and leading a healthy lifestyle is it's a habit that I have and I love it. It's one of my favorite things.
Yeah, so tell me, is there a typical day? Because you're also a mother.
I am a mom. I have two little kids and they're both in elementary school. And so life looks different every day for me. I try to get workouts in early in the morning or in the morning if possible, but sometimes it's that I don't have that time in the morning and I do it in the afternoon. So flexibility for me is key and understanding that it's okay for me to switch it up sometimes. But it's not okay for me to skip it, right? Like I have to do something to take care of myself each and every day because it helps me be a better version of myself and it helps me be a better mom and a better business owner. And it helps me show up for myself. Because if I don't show up for myself, then, I'll allow stress and all of those other things to kind of overwhelm me.
Yes, and when you're out there running, are you thinking of your next book? Because you're a four-time best-selling author.
Yeah, yes. So, the things that I like to do is I like to, strength train. I like to cycle. I like to walk. I like to do high intensity interval training. I do a lot of different things. I do some running. But, when I am exercising, I do think a little bit. I try to process some things, but I kind of try to shut everything down. I feel like I have to give myself space to not think, if that makes sense. And exercise is a perfect time for me to kind of shut off that chatterbox that's in my brain and allow that space to come up with new ideas. And it's amazing because it's in that time where I'm not thinking that I come up with some of the best ideas for a new book or a keynote speech or a program that I'm going to design or create.
Yes, and now we're talking about books. What was the inspiration behind your first book? Your first book, Construction Under Construction, right? Life Under
Life under,
Construction.
yes, life under construction, designing a life you love. So shortly after my mom was diagnosed with breast cancer, I felt like I had gotten punched in the stomach. I had just had a preterm baby. We were moving to a new city, building a house, building a business. Everything was in chaos. Right. And at night, when everybody was asleep or early in the morning before everybody woke up, I would write. For whatever reason, I had these lessons coming to me about how to, reframe the struggle I was going through, how to really focus on the good and not the bad, how to build myself up, and the fact that I had this internal power I didn't know I had. Right. And in that process of writing and writing and writing and having an entire book done, eventually I went to a conference and I talked to Seth Godin. He was up on stage and I was just like, asked him a question. And I said, I've got this thing done. I don't know if I should do it. And I don't know who's going to read it. And I don't know how it's going to help them, but I feel like it might help somebody. And he said, do it, just do it. And so I danced with my fears, as he calls it. and I published the book. And probably one of the scariest things I've ever done. But that first book has helped so many people. I've had, I was just thinking about it. I had this one woman named Melanie who came up to me after a keynote speech and essentially told me that she had been in a bad relationship, right? And she was in a bad place and she wanted to get a divorce, and she didn't know exactly what to do. And she was essentially rebuilding her life. Like, her life was under construction. So I gave her a free book and I gave her a hug and I told her I believed in her. And a few years later, I saw her, I ran into her. I didn't even really know who she was because she looked completely different, healthier, happy, vibrant, right? And she was holding my book, and she explained that it changed her life. She read it twice. She applied it to her life. And just this last September, she actually was one of the planning committee for our launch leadership conference, where we were able to develop 150 leaders. And it was beautiful. It was just beautiful to see that transformation within her. And so every single time that I do anything, even this conversation that we're having, I hope it's going to help one person. It doesn't need to help a million people. I'm not necessarily concerned about that. One person, if I can help one person and that one person can help another person, I feel like that's how we make a ripple effect in the world. And that's really one of my missions, is to create that positive change in the lives of others and empower them to believe in themselves and see their greatness.
Yes. Well, you said to her, I believe in you. I mean, we don't get enough of that. Mm-hmm. And, and the book title, how did you come up with the title?
I actually had called my friend and I was telling her I was like, my life is under construction right now, Laura. I said, wow. I don't know exactly why, but everything seems to be in upheaval. Life under construction was, the first step of writing and putting it out into the world and helping somebody. And now, I'm 4 books in. Another book that I just wrote with my kids is coming out called You Have a Choice. And it's about really choosing our mindset and choosing the thoughts that we think and how that can be empowering to ourselves or not empowering. And it's something I talk to my children about often. And we've been reframing their thoughts so that they can think more positive thoughts. And I think, that's a lesson that we all need to learn. And if we can learn it young, it can really help impact every area of our life.
So that's your first children's book? Or is
my second children's book? So my daughter's
children's book. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, we have a book called Tacos and Tutus about overcoming feeling scared. It's about my daughter's first dancing experience at a dance class and how she had to feel brave. And she told me the words, I wrote it, but it was all her. She picked out an illustrator. One Saturday morning, she's like, Mom, we gotta find an illustrator. Let's hire somebody. She's a powerhouse. And then this book is with my son and my daughter, and they both are so amazing at contributing and helping make it become something that can help people.
Wow, that's wonderful. Where can people get the book?
You can go to my website, AllisonLiddle.com, or you can go on Amazon and get the book. But yeah, it's so fun. I love sharing stories. I love illustrating, how we can think positive, how we can change our lives, how we can, influence others and especially ourselves.
Yeah. So now, having your first book, did this lead to, speaking engagements, keynote speaker?
Yeah. Well, what I have a background in marketing and business building, and nonprofit work. And so after I wrote my first book, I knew I wanted to share that story and I wanted to launch it. And so I just started to ask anybody and everybody that would let me come speak if I could come speak. And eventually what happened is, as I started to speak, I've always been a speaker. I started speaking when I was in 3rd grade. I love speaking, right? I love sharing stories and helping people. And it started to kind of snowball as I spoke more and more people started to learn about, my story and how I wanted to help people. And then I would start to get calls and different clients and opportunities would present themselves. And so now it's amazing because here we are having this conversation that I never in a million years would have thought. In a million years, would I ever have this opportunity to speak to you? We're literally in 2 different countries right now and sharing this story, absolutely blows my mind. It's so humbling. And I'm so grateful that I get to do this.
Wonderful, Allison. Now, people watching and listening to me on the podcast, what would you say to someone who has a story? I think everyone has a story, but they don't know where to start. Like, a memoir. What advice would you give them?
Well, I have a course on this, and the first part of it is really brainstorming that idea, right? So for my book, for my first book, I didn't really know it was going to be a book. I just started to write, which doesn't typically happen, right? A lot of times people can't start from nothing and start writing. So what I like to do now is I outline my book or idea, and I have a lot of ideas. And so if you're thinking about writing a book and you're like, yeah, Allison, I have tons of ideas, how do I start? I would choose the idea that's the easiest for you to implement or write about right now. What's the thing that you could just talk about right now that might build your business? It might help somebody. It might be something that's useful to others. And that's where I would start. And then I would outline, what are the things I could talk about? And if you are a speaker or you like to communicate, you might even just kind of transcribe it, right? Speak it into your phone or speak it into your computer and then transcribe it and then edit it. Obviously, it's going to look like a big run-on sentence, but at least you can have some words on a page, right? That's the thing that I think I couldn't get over when I started writing, is staring at the blank sheet of paper on the screen, is like, how do I start? Well, if you can start with some words on a page, now you can start to kind of flesh out your ideas and thoughts and explain a story in an easier way. And so that's what I would do, is to choose the things that's easiest for you, what excites and inspires you the most right now, and then put all of your time and effort into making it happen, right? Like, don't do anything else, like focus on it. And you'll be amazed at what you can accomplish in a really short period of time if you put that type of focus and energy into it.
Wow, wonderful information. And Allison, did you have a mentor, you know, to be so successful as you are?
Oh, absolutely. I had this amazing mentor named Cliffy, Clifton Macklin. I met him at a leadership development conference in Florida. I remember sitting down next to him, and he was very presidential, tall African-American man who was a bodybuilder. And him and I connected right away. We had a lot in common with, we really like to develop young leaders. We like to develop leaders in general. And then we both had a financial planning firm at that time. And so we connected, we talked for maybe 10 minutes, and I never thought I would talk to him again, to be honest with you. But he became one of the greatest mentors in my life. Like, he believed in me at the beginning of this journey more than I believed in myself. He had a mantra for me, keep going. And he would say it all the time. I literally have a book called Keep Going, How to Create a Champion Mindset, because Cliff was definitely a champion. He was a US World Bodybuilding champion. He was a Vietnam War vet. He just was this amazing human being. And his belief in me allowed me to do all the things that I do now. Like, I have conferences, I speak on stages, I write books, I try new things because I know that there's Cliffy up in heaven cheering me on. Unfortunately, in 2019, he passed away. I talked to him that day. Thankfully, he was working out. We had our last conversation. We were talking about working out and the importance of planks for our abdomens. And then in the afternoon, I got a text from him, which was so like him, because we would talk about business strategy, and then he would think of somebody that I needed to call. And unfortunately, it was his wife, and he had passed away. And that was our last conversation. But it was a beautiful conversation. It ended with him talking about how proud he was of me, and I told him how grateful I was of him, and best type of conversation to end with. And so I think, every single day I think about him and the impact that he's had on my life.
Yes. And it's like believing in you believe in yourself, and look, you are paying it forward. You're paying it forward.
Yeah, every day, trying to pay it forward, to believe in other people, because I think, the world needs more people that believe in others and to see the greatness in others, especially when life is hard, right? Like, especially when you're like, oh my gosh, I just don't know. I don't know how I'm going to get through this. I don't know what it's going to look like. I'm scared, or I'm afraid. I believe that, Cliff came into my life at the exact right moment to believe in me. And now I have the opportunity and pleasure of just spreading that as far and wide as I possibly can, And I think that's the whole reason why it's expanded beyond, Wisconsin. It's global now because, I believe that there's this energy out there that it's Cliff helping spread this beautiful message of hope and joy and how to keep going and to do that and to believe in people.
Yeah, this is wonderful. And you have other books too. Do you tell the audience about your other books? And I want to talk about your podcast launch.
Yeah, so I have The Art of Imperfect Action. All Success Comes from Daring to Begin. So that was my second book. And it was really about, people created their crazy huge goal in their life under construction book. And then they're like, now what? And I had already been practicing imperfect action. I didn't realize it wasn't really a thing that people talked about because I have owned a business since I was 23. And so that's how I figure out everything is, you figure out what you want to do and you start taking action toward it and you fail and you fail and you fail and you finally figure it out, right? Like that's how I operate. And so sharing that story of how to keep, moving forward and having that momentum. And then my third book was, Keep Going, How to Create a Champion Mindset. I was like, which one was it? Yeah, Keep Going, How to Create a Champion Mindset, which is really about the beliefs that we have about ourselves and how to shift those beliefs and whether or not they're serving us. And those, are the principles that I learned from my mentor, Cliff. And so that's a beautiful story and also very empowering on how to move forward and shift your mindset. And then my fourth book is Reset Your Life in 30 Days. And a detox for your mind, body, and spirit. And that was a process I literally went through where I took 30 days and each day I feel like God, the source, the universe gave me a lesson that I needed to go through. And I share it with people to help them, if they're in a place where they're under a lot of stress or overwhelmed or burned out, how do you stop everything and how do you rebuild yourself and how do you fill yourself back up and so that you can become that healthiest version of yourself and feel better. And it helped me and and I hope that it helps others. And then I have a couple children's books and yeah, we'll see what happens next.
Yes. Another children's book, another book. You keep going, Allison. It's so inspirational. And
thank you.
And thank you so much for sharing your story. And also I want to talk now about your podcast.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. You were on my podcast. So the podcast is Launch with Allison Liddle. And that podcast actually was started again. One friend at a play date, she's like, Allison, you do Facebook Lives all the time and I can't listen to them while I'm dropping off my children. And so could you do a podcast? And I said, sure. At first I said no, but then I said, okay, fine. I'll do it just for you. And if you're the only person that listens to it, that's fine. Doesn't matter, right? Like I had zero intention of having to do anything more than having Kayla listen to it. And now we have over 150 or 60 episodes. It's a global podcast, and I have the privilege of interviewing high achievers from all over the world and learning from them and sharing their stories and messages of hope and inspiration and empowerment. And it absolutely blows my mind. Again, like I never expected that, and super grateful that I have that opportunity. And I learned so much too in that process of having these conversations. So yeah, it's been really, really fun.
I mean, do you have a favorite guest or they're all,
I feel like, the thing that I learn is that there is something beautiful in every single conversation I have. I learn so much from everybody. It doesn't matter what industry they're in, doesn't matter, what they've done in their life, but there's something beautiful inside each and every person that I speak with. And I think, the thing that I like the most is how, and I don't know how this happens, but the podcast attracts this person who really cares about making a positive difference in the world. For whatever reason, I didn't intend for that to happen, but it's attracting that type of person. And I think that when we do that, right, when we are selfless and we're trying to add value to the lives of others in that way, it's amazing how much it can grow. Right. If we had the podcast and people were there selfishly and trying to do things for themselves, I don't think that it would be where it's at and making the impact that it's making. But I think, for whatever reason, the Launch podcast is really helping people launch in their lives personally and professionally. And that's a beautiful thing. And it's an honor to be able to host that.
Yes, I love the name Launch, right? It's just it's wonderful. Where can people listen to it?
And you can listen to it on Apple, Spotify, like all of the places. You can go to my website and listen to it too. But yeah, all of the places, it's amazing.
I was going to say, maybe you'll do a cookbook. I was thinking,
Yeah, right.
because you're really into fitness and health, and maybe a cookbook, Allison. I mean,
A cookbook on top of it. Okay, a cookbook, right? I
yes.
love it.
And then what is next for you?
What is next? You know, that's an interesting question that you should ask. You know, for me, I feel like I'm at a place where new things are happening and I don't know exactly what it's going to look like, but I'm super excited about, you know, what that means for myself and my family and really kind of creating something new and exciting to share into the world.
Yes. And what's your mantra?
Right now that I'm independently strong and courageous.
Yes. And is there anything else you'd like to add, Allison?
Well, I am just so excited and impressed with all of the things that you do, Christine. And so I want to make sure that, you know, your viewers and listeners understand that, you know, you're adding so much value into the world and that positive change has such an impact. And I'm so grateful that you show up every single day with that passion and purpose to help serve the world with their health and their fitness and their well-being. I think, you know, right now, especially, it's really, really critical that we understand the impact that our health has on every single area of our life.
Thank you very much. And I'd like to invite you back in a few months, if you will.
Yeah, absolutely. I would love that.